All right. So the next we're gonna have very interesting discussion because I think a lot of people has a lot of questions, and let me introduce the panelists first. So the the first one, the first person is an active community leader and organizer. He led the Save My Sunny Sky, this is Sunnyvale thing, to protect Sunnyvale and Cupertino from successive airplane noise. And as a board member of Silicon Valley SVCAF, led the project Strong Together during the pandemic to help protect the first responders and elderly community. In 2020, Tony found the Stop Proposition 16.org in 2021. Together with Mr. Ward Connolly, he founded Equal Rights for All PAC and currently serve as the vice president. Put your hands together for Tony Guan. Tony?
Thank you, everyone.
Next is also a Tony. The next person is a community organizer and a leader, actively in both local and statewide foundation for Chinese Americans. On behalf of California for Equal Rights Foundation, Tony Xu.
Expensive, so we travel by foot.
你坐他那个旁边。
Yeah,
Yeah, no.
this one?
Right there. Okay. So the next gentleman, his introduction from SCA 5 in 2014 to Proposition 16 in 2020. He has been helping Californians in protecting equal education rights. Most notably, he initiated Asian American civil rights complaints against Harvard University in 2015 and has been leading AACE in support of SFFA's lawsuits against Harvard University. Under his leadership, AACE brought discrimination against Asian Americans in Ivy League to national stage, trigger federal policy change on college admissions, and DOJ's lawsuits against Yale. Let's welcome Yukong Zhao. Great. Now we switch to, we have an interesting member. He is only 17, still in high school, and his heritage is Indian American, but he speaks many other languages, including Chinese, I was told. Wow, yeah. He's very active in politics for the last 4 years, and led Tandem's youth team in 2020 and create a voter guide for California voters who opposed Proposition 16 during the 2020 election. In 2021, he founded American for Equality PAC and served as the founding board members. The PAC has built a network of supporters in states from Texas to New York, and was even involved in Virginia when Glenn Youngkin won the governorship and passed HB 127 to ban racial preference In addition, he has been working with various groups such as the Hindu Education Foundation in ensuring all communities are treated equally in the United States to ensure our country truly has liberty and justice for all. Let's welcome Rajiv Hawley. All right, and Ed, you're the over there. Okay. Thank you very much. Welcome to the panel discussion. And we have a mic set up on the both end. So if you have questions, once we ask some of the panel pre-arranged questions, then we come to, you can just come up to front and ask questions as much as you can. Okay, so Ed, since you're the keynote, the first question's coming to you. And let me get my... Okay. Question for Mr. Broom. Question regarding putting the importance of putting a victim face to lawsuits. And for the Texas case, Amy Fisher was the face and the plaintiff. And every time there's a news about the 2003 lawsuits and talking about college admission, we saw her face, and we all automatically put that victim face to a lawsuit. So, and recently I have the privilege to have the video produced by SFFA regarding the Harvard lawsuits, and the first time in the open video format, we have a Harrison and Calvin, two Asian American young men, actually openly, publicly saying they are being discriminated. And locally, we have Michael Wong, but for as much as I know, that has made a video with CBS and talking about discrimination during his application process. So, Ed, can you talk about the original idea for SSFA, and I think that we wanted to bring that issue to upfront to the community at large here, and I understand it's very hard to find a face to a lawsuit. And can you talk about the whole process of have a nonprofit organization and membership-driven type of issue?
Yeah, that's a very good question, Jason. And it goes to the heart of what the foundation of Students for Fair Admissions is all about. Look, let's face it. Parents and students who come forward in the public arena today can be put in front of a Twitter firing squad. Their Facebook can be bombarded. Moms and dads are worried about students applying to Harvard and Stanford who are public faces in a lawsuit that most of Americans agree with. Nearly 3 out of 4 Americans agree with us, but those who don't can be very vocal and can be very ugly. And Abigail Fisher learned of that ugliness, the harassment, the threats, the fallout from careers, Abby learned it. She learned it firsthand. So to sue Harvard, I knew, and as a grandparent, I wouldn't want my grandson or granddaughter to be the face of a lawsuit like this. So Students for Fair Admissions became a membership organization. You joined Students for Fair Admissions. I told you, it was free for a while, now it's $10. If you are rejected from Harvard, you join Students for Fair Admissions. If you're rejected from Princeton or Stanford or UCLA, you can join Students for Fair Admissions, and that allows us as an organization to sue those institutions. We have lawsuits against Harvard, University of North Carolina, University of Texas, and Yale. All those are ongoing lawsuits, and we can continue those lawsuits as long as newly rejected students from those schools join Students for Fair Admissions. So that's how the structure of this organization has worked.
Maybe I add some comments. As Ed mentioned, 73% Americans support our position, which is college admission should not consider race as a fact. However, today's media, liberal media, politicians launch the reckless attack on people who speak up. Example, Hassan Minhaj, the comedian in Netflix, attacked me, attacked other AAC board members, attacked Mr. Bloom. When we say we're asking, be treated as all Americans, we are Americans. You guess what? He said, you are the worst Americans. They treated us like criminals, like, very, like terrorists, or this kind of, use this kind of assault. So what Mr. Edward Bloom did is a way to protect our children, but ensure we have this kind of fight. Thank you.
So my second question still start with, I think anybody can jump in, the panel. The second question is still for Mr. Bloom. Let me set this up for you, okay? So the court expected 25 years from now, the use of racial preference will no longer be necessary to further the interests approved today. This is the word quoted by Sandra Day O'Connor. So O'Connor wrote in the Grunter versus Bollinger, a case involving University of Michigan in 2003. So she has thrown out a term, 25 years, that starting from 2003, and she was envisioning in 25 years, there won't be no need for using skin color as a enrollment admission factor. So we were talking about 2028. So, my question is really, can you comment on that? I think the court recognized the issue of discrimination to the other race, and they put a term on that. Can you comment on that 25-year term?
In 2003, the court, with an opinion written by Justice Sandra Day O'Connor, said that skin color diversity is so compellingly important in higher education that colleges and universities can basically treat applicants differently because of their skin color. That was in 2003 in a case involving the University of Michigan. It was a terrible disappointment. I was in court. I was at the Supreme Court when that opinion came down. What Justice O'Connor said was that it is to be hoped. It was really aspirational. She didn't say, it wasn't part of the argument, or it wasn't part of the opinion, I should say, that, hey, 2028, it's over. That's typically not how court opinions are rendered. So even though we're not quite at the 25-year aspirational point that Justice O'Connor had hoped wouldn't be necessary, we feel like there has been virtually no let-up in colleges and universities treating people differently because of their race and their ethnicity. And there is nothing to suggest that after 2028 they would change their policies.
On to that, to give a more example from a bit of past history, I come from India. So in India, we have a system that's similar called the reservation system. And when the proponents of the reservation system put it in place to be able to address social discrimination amongst various groups, they said that this policy should only need to last for 15 years. I think it was probably a bit more definitive than Justice O'Connor said it. And according to Harvard, we're supposed to be good at math. So 1947, add on 50 years, that's 1962. The policy is still there decades from now, and it's only increased. And the reason why is because we realized that politicians, once they put it in, they can't take it out because then they lose votes from certain groups. Now, we have certain brave politicians here like Riteshji that are willing to take the brunt of that action and willing to face the wrath of groups that are there for really their own self-interest. But many politicians aren't willing to, and so that's why we're very fearful that without this court case, affirmative action is not only going to remain here for the next few decades here, for even the next 2 centuries, but chances are it's probably going to get even worse and even worse as the same groups that take the affirmative action benefits claim that we're still being discriminated against. So the reality is it's not going to go away, and unless we fight, chances are our numbers are soon going to be 0 in the top colleges.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I want to add a few comments. Basically, what went wrong with the affirmative action is it does not address the root cause, the racial gap in the academic performance, and also the underrepresentation of Black, Hispanic, and other minorities. Because of that, example, like in New York City, right? Because they have so many underperforming public schools, the K-8 like education, the English and math proficiency are, for Black, Hispanic, are less than half of white and Asian, right? But the liberal politicians never address root cause, which is high crime rate, drug use, also broken family, failing public schools. They never address that. So this racial gap increased. New York Times 2018 have an article says even with affirmative action, the minorities are even underrepresented than 35 years ago. So under this condition, currently the radical left want to reach racial equity, which means racial quota, right? They want the college representing the basically percentage of racial percentage of the population. So with that, if we don't fight, they will continue not only the affirmative action, also even racial quotas down the road. So Asian Americans, all Americans should really fight.
Okay. I'll try to put some comments, and I just read from the optimistic ways for this issue. Maybe we don't have to wait to 2028. So November's ruling is pretty interesting. So we may be able to end this one earlier, 6 years earlier. So since the Supreme Court has 6 and conservative judges, so November's ruling is pretty interesting. Great. We will see.
Since you are the comment on, can you talk about the CFER's, the organization you represent, CFER's mission, and what do you have done, and what's the future plan?
Oh, thanks, Jason. So I'm honored to be here and to introduce CFER. CFER is a nonpartisan non-profit organization dedicated to protect the equality and merit. So, and we accomplished this through voter registration and legal advocacy and policy research, monitoring policy and research policy and media outreach maybe. And also, we and CIFR's mission is to educate the public and raise the public awareness of the harms of the racial preference and policy and thinkings. But what we try to, and as well as the recent, and we try to fight with the propagation of the critical theory and critical race theory and CRT, yeah. For CIFR, and actually people knows, it was founded in 2020, and it's a leading organization. It's one of the leading organizations to fight against the Proposition 16, and we won. And Proposition 16 was defeated by 58%. This is a big, imagine this is a blue state with, and President Biden got 60% votes, but Proposition 16 still was defeated by a 58% margin. That's a huge margin, even larger than the passage of Proposition 209. So it's obviously the mainstream and the people is at our side, not at the other side. So with the help of the Supreme Court, I believe we have a good chance this year. And CIFRA actually will continue collaborate with all our allies like SFFA and SVCA to advance our shared cause and protect of equality for all. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tony. We're talking about the Proposition 16. One of the numbers I want to share with everybody, because I was looking it up, and the opposition no to Proposition 16, the total amount of money raised is 1.7 million, and the for Proposition 16, 25 million. So we're talking about 1.7, let's say 2 million versus 25 million. So it's a David versus Goliath story. It's amazing. And then you go look at the Proposition 16, the endorsement on the yes side. It's go all the way from the governor, lieutenant governor, the controller, all the way down to even city of San Jose. So I live in San Jose. I was asking them, why are you even making a stand? You know, city San Jose, take care of our water, take care of our street. Why do you make a stand? And no, they have to get involved. But anyway, so let's get back to the panel. So Rajiv, I'm very interested in your view. And one of the questions that I have, let me set this up for you. Since you are firmly against racial preference, can you talk about your high school life regarding this issue? Does your teacher and friends knows about your stand? And would your belief affecting your relationship and interaction with your teachers? And we know teachers' unions very, very strong in this state. Go ahead.
That's a good question. I'd say one of the things I realized later on in my political career was that nowadays when you search me up, it's fairly easy to get a understanding of where I stand. So it's very hard to hide my political positions at this point. My teachers don't appreciate them fully. I will tell you that. But what I have seen, aside from, the constant harassment that you get from the teachers, the constant, them telling you, oh, you know nothing, you're just some dumb liberal. There's a few things that we should note, right? First of all, a lot of us are naturally smart and naturally hardworking. And, even though they've tried to make everything subjective, they can't make everything subjective. And so, you study hard, you maintain your test scores, you get all of that, they can't really dock you for your grades. They can't really hurt you on that end. And the second thing is that even though, this is California, we're a liberal state to say the least, even though a lot of people are against me, I have had countless students and countless teachers even come up to me and be like, Ritvij, I support you. I agree with what you're doing. And, I'm Jason can tell you, I'm a very energetic guy. So I'll go, oh, you're a conservative. It's like, shh, don't tell anyone. It's like, at this point, we're like this underground resistance of, conservative activists. But I can tell you, we are there in the schools. We are strong. And trust me, as long as we all stay the course, we will win this thing.
All right. I want to come to Yong Kong, and I want to set this up for you. Good question. I have enjoyed your writing over the years, and since you are a very prolific writer, and can you talk about being the first generation of immigrant in this country and how to participate in this country's democratic process? And in your opinion, what are some of the mental blocks for the immigrant need to overcome to participate? We always say, if you're not on the manual, if you're not at the table, you're on the manual. So we try to, as my foundation, and I find that try to encourage people to engaging with the process and vote with their heart and brain, not heart. So can you talk about that? I think I saw a lot of writing from you, and I think you're the perfect person to talk about as the first generation of immigrant from a country that a lot of people has the same roots as you.
It's a very good question. Most of us came from Asia, right? We're first generation immigrants. One commonality we shared is in our home country, we are not supposed to involve in the policy making, right? We have to do something in Chinese called 逆来顺受, okay? So but I was a little bit blessed. I went to University of Science Technology of China. We're influenced by two famous professors, Professor Fan Lizhi and Professor Wen Yuankai. And we talk about a lot about like Chinese economic reform, a lot of things. So somewhat develop a little bit sense of mission, how can we do something for our country, right? So I guess, many years ago, as Jason mentioned, I wrote one article saying, Chinese Americans should overcome 3 mindsets. The first is called peasant mindset, which means you only care about 1.3 acre of your farmland. You don't care about others.
Mindset?
Yeah, peasant.
okay.
小农心态, okay? 小农心态. The second is traveler's mindset. You're like, 就是过客心态. You view America just as a traveling destiny, one station. You really don't treat America as your home country. So you read most, Chinese news, not American news. Care more about China, not America, right? We need to overcome that. The second. The third is a refugee mindset. America already gave me so much, If I'm mistreated, my children mistreated, that's okay, right? So I wrote this kind of article. So the first, we need to overcome these 3 mindsets. We need to be able to speak out. The reason I launched the civil rights complaint initiative against Harvard, many things are because of that. So we want to, America is a democratic country, it expects citizens participate the policy making process. If we're not participating, we are on the menu, right? The second, that's the first step. Second step is really direct participate, which means you support politicians or you run for office. You support politicians who take care of your interests, fight for your equal rights. So in summary, first is really speak out by join Students for Fair Admission, join my organization, donate for the organizations who fight for your interests. That is speak out, right? Number one. Number two is really run office or support a politician. One more thing I want to mention. You know, even with the this kind of up here, a lot of verbal assault from the some individuals or even some like liberal comedians, but we still have very courageous, children like Michael Wan who stood up, right? And also even my son Hubert, he also stood up, right? Fight the civil rights complaint. The good thing is, they still have a good job. So, we should fight. We should have courage, and also don't be afraid of, if we don't fight our interests, nobody else take care of you.
Thank you. Both Tonys, yeah, go ahead.
I don't think. Okay, thank you. That's a really great sharing. But I think from the past few years, we can definitely see a change, right? So nobody can deny that. So one evidence is the Proposition 16 the campaign, and also for the last 2 years, we can see we get to see a lot of recall happening all over the country. Right, so with recall, right? Yes, there it is. Yeah. So you can see our San Francisco friend. Actually, one of our PAC members. I'm really proud of her, Selena. So Selena, please stand up. Let everybody see you at the chair. So this is our new generation, right? Not as new as you, but our new generation. So this is our hope, right? So if we don't have our real representatives in the office, and if we don't have our own representatives in the legislation, then we will have to fight one bill after another every day. Right? Even every day, multiple bills, 100 bills, right? Don't you feel so tired? Very tired. Very tired, right? The reason why, because maybe so. Yes, I see this room is we have much more registered people than really people who came. So. Can I say that you guys are all just to include everybody, right? We are already awakened, right? We see what's happening, and we tell ourselves, we cannot just keep doing nothing like this anymore. That's why you came here, and you hear sharing from Mr. Bloom, but most importantly, we need to take some actions, right? So. The Proposition 16 win was really encouraging. It's actually the influence goes way beyond California, and also the recall at least two recalls for the San Francisco, right? So we have a recall school board, and there we made it, and then we have another recall Chesil, the DA, right? Yeah, so we look forward for our people in the office so that we don't have to fight all these ridiculous bills or policies. And so all I want to say is that we got see a lot of help, especially today, right? A lot of hope, not help, a lot of hope. Thank you, everyone. So let's keep doing that. Let's really not doing that, and also bring your neighbor on. Teach your kids, right? Don't lose your kid. So you know that our schools are especially public schools, they're doing a lot to our kids' mind. Make sure you talk to your kids every day about what they are taught at the school, and discuss with them all of the political issues. And because if you don't discuss with them, they will be lost. They will be really abducted to other directions. We don't want to lose them. If we lose them, we lose the future of the American. So let's make sure that that doesn't happen. Okay, thank you.
Regarding San Francisco, that the recent news is not only the recorded DA, but also the newly appointed school board just a couple days ago. They reverting the quota system back to merit base for Lowell. So that's a huge accomplishment. So I think that generation of new immigrants waking up to the reality of California. So coming back, talk about California. I have a question for all of you. In 2020, California Proposition 16 would have installed racial preference in education, government contracting, and jobs. As more private company embracing diversity, equity, and inclusiveness, the private company has created what we call, I saw a lot of opening for diversity officer, so everybody heard of that, and the DEI offices. So question to the panel, could you see a racial proportional quota system be the next step? And if that's in the future, how do we fight that?
Well, I'll take off my Students for Fair Admissions cap and put on the other cap that Jason referenced, and that is another legal foundation that I founded back in 2005 called the Project on Fair Representation. Your question goes to the heart of what is happening not only in sort of California corporations, but it is a national phenomenon. The thumb is being put on the scale by corporations in order to boost their management diversity, their employment numbers, and that is a very problematic and difficult litigation to undertake. It is going to be done. It is being done systematically. The Pacific Legal Foundation, Mountain States Legal Foundation, Washington Legal Foundation, Institute for Justice, all of these organizations are looking at this kind of policy and planning litigation. As you can imagine, it is very difficult for an individual who works for, I'm going to just make up a name, let's call it Google, who was passed over for promotion because there were too many Asians or too many whites or not enough of this or not enough of that. That is a very particular kind of lawsuit to file. So that individual has to bring that lawsuit. An organization like Students for Fair Admissions really doesn't have the capacity or the standing to do that. So I encourage you, if you have been, pardon me, if you feel like your race or ethnicity has prevented you from either being hired or promoted or was a factor in layoffs, contact us, contact Pacific Legal Foundation, or contact me personally, and I am happy to have a look at the case and direct you to a foundation or an organization that possibly can help. But you're right, Jason, it's a terrible problem, and it's the next battle within the racial preference sphere.
So I'll also take this one. The legal route that Ed mentioned is certainly a viable one, but the other route I want to point out is the individual route. We in the Indian community especially have had an experience with this because what's been happening is that there have been groups going around to these big companies, especially in the Bay Area, in the technical areas, saying that, Indians, right, who are majority Hindu, that Hinduism is a naturally oppressive religion, and that because of that, people need to be protected from discrimination by Hindus, which, quite frankly, if you look at the data, it's ridiculous. They have any data, any research to back it. But what has happened is in some areas, this has come underway, and even Governor Newsom has filed a lawsuit against one California private company, trying to encourage them to basically protect their people against this discrimination that doesn't exist. We're fighting that, but what we're seeing is, as this news went around, as more companies began to fall to this discrimination, our people, the people which Indians and a lot of Asians are largely in the tech industry, we started waking up. Recently in Google, another group called by the name of Equality Labs also tried to come in and do the same thing, and our people organized, right? I mean, let's face it, without Asian Americans, all these big tech companies would collapse. So we came together and we said, you know what? No. Let's take a look at the data here. There's no recorded instance of discrimination. There's no recorded instances of this systemic racism, oppression, whatever you want to call it. And so there's no need to attack a culture. There's no need to attack a religion and try to push for that religion to be excluded from a discussion because you just don't like it and you just have feelings against it that are based on social justice. And that actually succeeded, and Google actually canceled any programs that they were going to do to try to cancel some of their programs on diversity. And so that was actually a success for us. And so if we were to replicate that model, right, the next time it came up for us in the Indian community. If something comes up in the Chinese community, if something comes up in any Asian community, if we were to replicate that model, don't forget, it's not us that's dependent on Google or Microsoft or anything. They're dependent on us. We run their companies. We're the ones that are their managers. We're the ones that are their coders. We're the ones that are their engineers. We're doing everything. If we leave, these companies collapse. And so what I would strongly urge you to do is organize, get together, and tell them, you're not going to bring all of this crap into our companies, and you're not going to bring it to our place of work. Our place is going to be one of merit and of industry and of hard work only. And if we can do that, then we'll be able to resist this new attack in the racial preferences sphere.
Any other comments? Go
Yeah,
ahead.
absolutely. I want to echo what he just said, and also want to point out a few things. Number one, the so-called diversity, inclusion, and equity are not really doing anything good for America. They are not truly inclusive. They are really intolerant. Example, Georgetown University, a professor, just told the truth, say some African American students, their academic performance was not good enough, right? She got fired. This kind of thing happening, right? And also in UC Berkeley, the school spent $25 million to just hire the diversity officers, hundreds of them, and then why our tuition going up, right? That's waste money. Also, in terms of diversity, should the diversity of ideas, but right now it's diversity of skin color, right? So it's not right. So I'm writing a book, title called Critical Race Theory and Woke Culture, America's Dangerous Repeat of China's Cultural Revolution. You guess what? In China, we have called Revolutionary Committee, all doing this, just policing the corporations. You need to be revolutionary, right? And many high-performing managers try to produce more products, being sacked, being cancelled. So these things are happening in America. I don't want to take individual name, but one of my relatives told me this kind of training, the DEI training, many employees go there, but they're afraid of speak out. Because otherwise, if you speak out, you're being viewed as politically incorrect, and then your future will be ruined, right? So we need to really find a way to speak out, and we need to fight against that. Otherwise, this country will repeat the dangerous path China experienced 50 years ago.
Would like to add how to turn on?
Can you
Hello?
you want to use the mic first?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So yeah, I would like to add a couple comments. And actually, CIFR is looking at this issue quite a while ago and working with the Pacific Legal Foundation. What I was told, and we understand, if there is a private organization or a private employer, it will be very, very extremely hard to take any legal action for them because they are a private organization, and they can do whatever they want, and unless they violate the law. So it's very hard to say them, and if they create a diversity officer, we're violating any laws. So, yeah, for private and organization, looks like it's very hard to target them or take any legal actions to them. But if you're a public company or give a public government job, government and a public company, and you probably can do something for that. So that's some point, and Pacific Legal Foundation is looking at that, because theoretically, and in California, Proposition 209 is still our California Constitution. So anything has a racial code, theoretically is violated the California Constitution, but that's only for the public organization. So for the private organization, I think it's basically for the business entity, they just follow the tide, we call. So the whole society looks like push there this way, they just follow the tide. But if the tide changes, they will change as well. So the more important fight, I think, is still in the Supreme Court, maybe. Another comment is we see some changes recently. One news I read is the Tesla, Elon Musk just laid off the diversity officer, and canceled their work and the diversity program in Tesla. So something is changed, but like I said, if the whole tide is changed, they will change as well. That's my couple points. Yeah.
I got it.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I got it too. Yeah. So this is a tough topic, especially for the professional workers, right? Professionals. We got all this diversity, inclusive, and equity going on everywhere. Especially if your company is a bigger one, right? Because they have the resource to spare. So I'm always asking one question. Please define diversity. So I don't ask you anything other than that. Please define diversity. Is that diversity by mind or diversity by skin color? Right, that's totally different. If it's diversity by mind, we should be tolerant to different opinions, right? Because that's what makes us strong. That will make us worry-free from okay, you go to one directory too much, then we can get it back because there's some balance. But if it's okay, that's only one side of opinion, and you cannot freely express your own opinion. If it's different than the big companies, I don't believe in that. And I personally have been challenging our company's policies, especially on that vaccination mandate stuff. Every time there is a news and some celebrity got tested positive, of course they will be with mind symbols, and thanks to the vaccine that they got or booster they got, they will not die. Okay, that kind of stuff, it's always there, right? How come that's a news? I really don't understand that. So every time there's some news, I will post that and ask people. So do you really think that our vaccine policy makes sense? I just need you to think, right? Maybe we should revisit this policy. Maybe we should do things differently. I asked that question. So just as you, right? So a lot of people will send me message, private message. Hey Tony, great job. You're so brave. I support you. But I said, okay, so yes, thank you for the support. But we just as Michael said, we need. So a lot of people won't say anything until they see the tide changing. So I need you to be part of that tide, so that we can change it together. It's time to change.
Okay.
Every day we got all this news, right? So you think we know that it doesn't make sense, but why don't you speak up? Please do it. When you see other people doing that, please support them by press that like button or comment, right? Give them a flower or a heart. That's a tide-changing action, and we can build up accumulatively, and eventually it gets to non-stop power, so that we can really turn American in a better way, better direction. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Tony. I'm going to try to bring back to the education side, and we're going to open up the question and answer. So anybody has a question can go to the where's the mic set up on the side? Yeah, you can line up, and we're going to open the question very soon. So coming back to the last, hopefully not last questions. So the it's a hidden quota question issue. We're talking about, we already covered Proposition 16. It was defeated 58-42. However, the UC region administration against Proposition 209. So they saw one way they couldn't push through, so they decided to lower the admission standards, namely canceling SAT. And so as a result, it was reported some local high school around here that admission to Asian admission to UC school has been very, very low compared with the previous years. So question to all the panelists, do you have a comment regarding this, and how do we, I think a lot of people, most of Californians has I would love kids, because I think the Harvard case is a national impact, but UC enrollment associated with every parents in this state, because if you go to UC school, not only closer and has all kinds of we support UC with our tax dollars, and we have all kinds of benefit to have kids go to UC. So I think that's a huge issue recently. So we want to hear from the panelists regarding the what's going on in California UC schools, and because of the canceling of SAT.
This is a big issue in California. It is not only going to be an issue in California, at least for another year or so, but in other states like New York, Virginia, and elsewhere. So as I explained before, the mission of Students for Fair Admissions is to eliminate race and ethnicity from college admissions. What happens after that is a different battle. We have argued that if Harvard wants to throw darts at 58,000 names and hit 2,000 of them and admit college applicants that way, that's fine. If they want to take the highest SAT scores, fine. If they want to take the lowest SAT scores, fine. What they can't do is use race and ethnicity. Now, once that battle is over, there will be new battles. And what is happening in California is emblematic of what those new battles will be. Now, it's interesting that people have brought to my attention that the end of standardized tests, ending SAT requirements and ACT requirements at the undergraduate level will give colleges and universities cover. There won't be that important data point that you can uncover during litigation. Now, something very interesting happened just a few weeks ago, and I rarely recommend a Harvard website, but you should have a look at this if you're interested in it. Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT, I see a few people nodding, that had suspended standardized tests during COVID, has now decided that they are going to reintroduce standardized tests. Now, why did they do that? You will find a very interesting article at Harvard Magazine. All that you have to do is Google Harvard Magazine and look at the July-August edition to have some discussion by the editor of Harvard Magazine about why MIT did that and what the benefit of that may be. Now, this is Harvard, who has suspended SATs through the class of 2030. He is suggesting that that might need to be revisited. Let me just read you this because I found it striking and it goes to Jason's question. I hope I can find this. He writes, but there are lessons for Harvard here. By here, we mean the reintroduction of SATs. Whatever the rules by which the college is required to conduct admissions in the future, MIT's clear message is instructive. Harvard cannot paint a simplistic vision of its manifold educational offerings or its astonishing array of enriching extracurricular activities. But the complexity and mystery of its current admissions process, uncomfortably unveiled during the SFFA trial, probably aren't the way to proceed either. He goes on to say that by reintroducing the SAT, MIT will actually have a more fulsome set of diversity to look at. By that, he is mirroring what MIT had to say, and that is SAT scores tell us something very important. They tell us about the academic preparation, the academic ability of our applicants. And by getting that information and then applying it to an individual student, we may actually have a shot of better skin color diversity than eliminating that. There are kids who go to high schools here in the state of California, in Texas, all over, who don't have the opportunity to take AP classes, who don't have college counselors writing wonderful letters of recommendation. If those kids do well on standardized tests, they have a better shot at places like MIT and Stanford and Harvard. So that goes, I think, directly to your question.
Go ahead.
No, I'll take it. So
I think we are pressuring on time, so try to keep short and precise.
Sure, yeah. So obviously I'm going to be the first member of the class impacted by this, and I actually have a brief story on it. You know, I got my SAT scores back, I think, in like early January. I took it in December. Full disclosure, I got a 1540. My friends were like, oh, 1540, that's nice, good job. My dad was like, where have I gone wrong in my life? But yes, he thought I spent too much time with you, by the way. But in all seriousness, I can tell you the impacts are already happening, and you're always seeing how they're getting around, right? Like when I was young, we were thinking of UCI, UCSD, all of these as schools that you had a moderate chance of getting into. Now most of the people I know, the smartest students are barely getting UC Riverside, and everyone else isn't getting a UC at all. They're just going to community college and trying to reapply. They've been broken. Like this whole system has been broken to the point that, before, right? At least, in the affirmative action era, we knew, okay, we had to work a bit harder, that's fine, but we at least knew what to do with the standardized test. Now, with the standardized test gone, we have no idea what we should be even looking for. So I think what will help, at least, just the thought of the, off the head here, if we were to force colleges that, both public colleges and college that receive federal aid to be more transparent and say, look, to get into our college, we require X, Y, and Z. This is why you're getting in, this is why you're not. Kind of like how the FEC, tracks like public data, right? Just list that data out and say, these students got in for these reasons. That would help our students better prepare, and that would help our students better know. If you don't want to use SAT, that's fine. Use some other criteria, but at least let us know what criteria you're using so that we can actually know what to do, especially being first-generation immigrants. I think if we can get that, and I think if we can force colleges to do that, that will help solve the issue a bit more.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I guess number one is dangerous trends, right? Right now the radical left, they not only label the standardized test, also label math. Anything some like a minority group cannot perform, anything they cannot perform, like a math, learning math, they label as racist, right? It's ridiculous. Okay, we need to stop that. And just last June, like 1 year ago, I wrote an article in Orange County Register, right? The Orange County Register. I compare what's happening here in China's Cultural Revolution. Cultural Revolution, we stopped the college entrance exam for 10 years. And then, we admitted a bunch of people based on the political profile, economic class, not based on academic performance. You guess what? China has no qualified managers, engineers to support the whole economy, plus other reasons, economy collapse, right? So we cannot afford to repeat this. One more thing I want to clarify. Some people spread the rumor, say, because the students for admission, AAC, all Asians, stood up to fight. So that's the reason the liberal began to cancel standardized tests. That's wrong. They already started the process in 1980, right? But right now they accelerate that. So we are fighting against that. Just 2 days ago, my organization, Team Up Asian American Legal Foundation, filed an amicus brief in support of the Thomas Jefferson High School in their fight against canceling the admission test. For California, I want everybody here, okay, you need to fund student stand up. Right now we can fund the legal foundation to fight for you, but we need plaintiff. We need a student to be willing to, to fight the case. We need to use lawsuits to win this case. Thank you.
Thank you. Tony.
Very simple and comments, just one sentence. So the university will eventually realize canceling that standard test will hurt them in long run. Yeah, eventually they will realize it. And not every university that take the same policy. I know quite a number of universities still taking SAT and ACT. Thank you.